Well, I read an interesting story today about cargo theft and how a freight broker got duped by a fake carrier. And I thought I would do a video about this, how to protect yourself and your cargo, if you're a shipper. So what happened with this guy, he got contacted, he posted a load on a load board, and a carrier contacted him, and looked like a legitimate carrier with the MC number, insurance, stuff like that. So the broker sends the carrier the rate confirmation, and the carrier proceeds to book another carrier. And so a different guy shows up at the shipper to pick up the shipment, and then leaves. And so then a commotion happens, and the driver is not sure whom to listen to, because he gets calls from the shipper, from the broker, from the carrier. But the carrier, the original carrier, is telling the driver to drive to a total different location, not what was shown as a consignee's address, right? So basically what they do is they direct the driver to park the trailer at a remote location, or maybe like a storage facility, and then they proceed to blackmail the freight broker. Basically they take the load hostage, right? And so now, let's say if the load paid $2,000, now they're asking for like $10,000, And then this particular broker got in touch with his customer, and eventually they did it as an insurance claim, so loss. So basically they didn't pay, but they lost the shipment, right? And what's funny is that the same fake carrier, that's what they do. They change their identities, like quite often, right? So that they don't get caught. So the same person created a fake identity as a different carrier, and again they got in touch with the same freight broker, and the same freight broker got duped twice, and so he lost the second shipment. And this time his customer, who was giving him about 1,000 loads a year, the customer says, that's it, this is where we draw the line, we cannot work with you. And so after this, the freight broker started, thinking about how to, protect themselves from this happening again. And they implemented a few simple checks. And after that, things really improved. And so that's what I want to provide here, a few tips that, I learned from that story, and also FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Authority website has some tips. But basically you want to make sure that the carrier that, like for me, right, as a freight broker, let's say I'm contacted by somebody who claims they're a carrier. So first off, you got to make sure they're a legitimate carrier, right? So you can go to the FMCSA DOT number lookup, and you can check that number is legit, and that it says authorized for property, right? And then you make sure that the phone number and the email address on that public profile matches what this carrier was using to communicate with you, right? Let's say if over there it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but the guy is using 987 654 4321, you got to start thinking, like, why is the phone number different, right? Oh, we forgot to update it. That's BS. It should be the same, and the same email address. And then everybody says you should be hesitant when dealing with people using free accounts such as Yahoo or Hotmail or Gmail. But I don't know. When I was a carrier, I used the Gmail account. I never had any issues. Nobody ever asked me about this. And then, of course, you have to check insurance, right? You have to check insurance. Again, on the same FMCSA website, you can check insurance. Make sure that there was no lapses and it was not canceled, but most importantly, that it's active. it's still active, right? So now, okay, you verify that the MC number is the same, the address is the same, email address, phone number. And actually what happened to me, I think in my, what was it, like 5 or 7 years when I was independent, only once I was asked to send a picture. Like, I was really surprised, but the broker who I was talking to about a load, they said, okay, please send us a picture of your truck and specifically the sign on the door. But that's what they recommend nowadays. Like, when you're dealing with somebody and you have suspicions that they have, might be a fake carrier, you just ask them to send you the pictures of the truck and the truck's door and the trailer and possibly the license plate, and then you communicate that information to the shipper and consignee to make sure that the same company shows up to pick up and deliver the load. And of course, you always include a clause in the rate confirmation, something to the effect that double brokering is not permitted in an event of a breach. This will result in non-payment, right? So if you catch them that one truck picks up but the different truck delivers, that's double brokering. You say, that's it, I'm not paying you, okay? And then what else? What was else in there? So the same email, the same phone number. And yeah, they were saying that it's best to stick to companies that can prove that they have 10 trucks at least. And I remember this logistics company I used to work for, there was a couple of losses, and after that they changed the rules. And they were saying, when I was an agent, right, they were telling us that oversized, overweight shipments, especially when they're expensive, and some of these new excavators, new wheel loaders, they cost like $500,000. And they were saying that these high value items should not be given to small operators, like a guy with a truck. But again, when I was a carrier, I did it all the time, and I just had one truck, one trailer, and it was just me. And I moved a lot of stuff, high value stuff, and never had an issue. I think only once, when I just started, I think one broker refused to work with me because he said my DOT number was too new, But basically, yeah, so it's very easy to get burned as a broker. So somebody just, like I said, they do double brokering. They don't have their own trucks. They just crooks, right, posing as a carrier, and then you give them the load, then they actually find another carrier, and they don't even pay them, right? So they make them move the load, they basically steal it, and they don't even pay that carrier, and so it's a mess. It's a mess. So it's always best to check all the paperwork. Oh yeah, and one more thing they were saying, a very simple trick, but it really helps when you insist that the carrier provides you with the driver's phone number. And I don't know, I never had an issue with that when I was a carrier. They would, the broker would call or text me directly, okay, what's your location, But nowadays, when I'm a broker, I find that a lot of carriers are very hesitant about supplying the phone number of the actual driver. But that simple thing, if you know the phone number and you can call them and ask them, right? So that simple thing can prevent theft easily, because you can ask the guy, right? It's like, what company do you work for? Can you show me a picture of the doors? What's on your door? And then you just compare. Wait a second. Okay, so I gave the rate confirmation to ABC Trucking. This actual guy sends me a picture where it says CBA Trucking. What's going on, right? So maybe he forgot to flip his phone, or maybe it's maybe it's a theft situation, right? So, but that simple thing, that's like the last thing that I as a broker will now insist on, is having direct contact with the driver, so that I can call them, I can find their location if everything is legit. I want to know where they are. I don't want them to take 5 days off somewhere in the middle of the route. So yeah, so those are some tips. it's a tricky business, being a broker, being a carrier, and so there's lots of dangers, lurking under the water.